Hey Bailey, taking a look at this in more detail from what we saw from our discussion in class. Um, so I have some thoughts. All this is just plussing stuff. I think there's a couple of things that, Okay, so anyways, let me get into this. So I feel like I want, and I don't know if this is possible with the audio clip that you have, but I feel like I want a little bit of context. I feel like I'm missing it. So I don't know what the line was that the character that she's speaking to said right before this, but it may be nice to have that line and include that line in here so we can see where she's coming from, because then we get into this thing. But for her just to launch into it, I feel like I want the question that precedes, oh yeah, I just transferred, which I think, it's probably something like, I haven't seen you around here before, or like something like that, right? Anyways, that's a thought. I'm not trying to add to your frame length count, but it seems like there's a lot of quiet in the beginning here, kind of like where we could put a question.
Oh, yeah, I just
Okay, yeah,
transferred.
because
Yeah, I just
she, the her audio, her dialogue read doesn't start until 71. So if there's a way to get his question in there, I don't know. Only you know the audio. So let's start talking about other things specifically. This is great and fine. I think maybe though I would suggest that we get all the fingers together on this pose if she's like looking at her nails. Um, you know what I mean? Like it feels a little odd to me that it's like in that kind of like classic art, um, two fingers in the middle kind of pose. You know what I mean? Maybe we can even see like the thumb kind of poking out the side. I think that might be stronger. And then when we go out here to the side, I feel like this arm being stacked up on itself is, maybe we can make the pose a little more appealing. Like in your reference, you have it far more interior, but I like this hand angle that you have. So I don't know if maybe we can just use the pull vector to like kind of get the elbow more against her side, or if maybe we need to move the hand a little bit more over to the left and use the pull vector to get, that's just like a little plussing thing. And then we're going to have to do things like make sure that we are illustrating eye direction change. So if she's having her hand out to the side like that, what the heck? I want her, we're going to have to show, and this is just going to probably be a breakdown pose that you haven't gotten to, but I want to see her eye direction looking away, like down at her hand for a spell, right? Like we need to get her attention there before it returns to him, the speaker, right? So this is cool. That's just a suggestion for a breakdown that's really going to help sell the performance, is having like some of these look direction breakdowns. And you put a little something in a body, a little movement, So like if here she's looking at the hand, maybe her head angle would just be like slightly different. Like maybe it doesn't have to be radical, it doesn't have to be extreme, but maybe, we can get her, because I noticed in a lot of these, I'll probably speak on it a little bit later, because there's at least one other place that I've noticed, is that we see a lot of underneath her chin, and I know that that's what we're seeing here in your reference with how low your camera is, but I feel like your camera in the 3D space is more like at this kind of level, so maybe we can tilt her head down and stuff. And we also just want to design like quality poses and stuff like that, so then maybe when she turns her attention to him, it's not purely in the eyes, but we get a little bit of like head rotation and just a little bit, I don't know. Anyways, like we can do things like the hand could drop a little bit now that she's looking at him and this isn't like her focus, then the fingers relax a little bit, so we're kind of like, showing that she's not focused on her hand so much. So this is good. Again, I think her eyes need to be at whoever she's speaking to a bit, and then later she looks up and to the left, because like that's where when she goes to, she's thinking about her answer. She's probably thinking about what kind of it, like what she wants to say to this guy, how much information she wants to say to the guy. So this is supposed to be a stupid green check mark saying, yeah, this is great, but maybe we need to proceed it with something like this. And if we're proceeding it with something like this, maybe this head angle isn't, like maybe this is the head angle that we want for when she's looking up to the left and thinking. And here, maybe we want a little bit of a different head angle. So when she changes her eye direction, and again, I'm talking about breakdowns that you haven't done yet. So maybe you know all this stuff yet already. And if that's true, like, please forgive me. But, you know, maybe she's looking more direct. And then when she goes to think, she's looking up. And then we also need, like, maybe she pulls back a little bit with her torso. So maybe we want in this pose to have a little bit of a different torso movement, like maybe she's forward just a little bit more this way, so then when she goes to look backwards, her torso goes a little bit back that way, which I think is what this arrow was about. All right, so anyways, again, I know I'm talking about breakdowns that aren't there, but I think these are going to be like key breakdowns to help explore and explain this. Here I feel like, again, like we're seeing a lot of like under chin, so maybe if you just rotate her head this way a little bit, which will make her eyes maybe a little bit more level, then we can eliminate that. We can get like a little bit more appealing. Again, this is just about what's appealing in a pose, right? And I think this is the one that we talked about during class, where this pose doesn't feel like super appealing to me. I think maybe there's like a better design to be had. It's hard for me to say exactly what that would be. But what I'm starting to feel between all your stuff is that she's not just like a wooden person sitting locked in her seat, that she's actually like, we're getting some rotation out of her head, we're getting some really nice head angles, we're getting some nice leans and everything, like a lean forward and everything. So this expression here from your
transferred.
reference
I honestly,
is like putting your hand to your chin to think, right? It looks like
like
it's kind of like an embarrassing think in a way. So yeah, I would say go for it. Let's get the hand right up there on the chin, and then we need to figure out, maybe we can get a little bit more, maybe we need a little more arch here in the back and try to design like a little more clear shape out of that. And then we like really need to think about, maybe we can get this elbow out forward, you know. And again, I'm not so skilled as an animator that I can imagine 100% of the poses in my head and just sketch them out perfectly or whatever. But I can point to poses that maybe need like a little more, appeal, and I think this is one of them. You know, I think this hand on the couch is great. It's fine. Could also be maybe more forward, but again, I think it's fine. So it's just something to play with to try to get like the most appealing pose that you can. You know, like maybe this is where she kind of leans in to this person, you know, which maybe that means her face gets a little more like in profile and she's looking a little bit more directly at. I mean, right now I know that she's looking down or maybe has her eyes closed, but at some point before she kind of retreats, it might be nice to have her open her eyes and make eye contact, like, because she's kind of dancing around eye contact and not making a lot of eye contact. You can really use that as something that's gonna be really potent. So maybe she like looks up and makes eye contact really briefly before we realize how uncomfortable she is with making eye contact. So she breaks eye contact and pulls back into something else. So, you know, I don't know if you're planning on doing this nice little gesture here. Maybe flattening the hand is a little too strong, but maybe just like having a little bit bend in those fingers when she comes out of the thinking pose is great. And here it, you know, again, it looks like in your reference you're making eye contact in both of these. So that's going to be an important little moment here. Again, that's a breakdown that you don't have. Totally get it. You didn't get there, but that would be a nice one to start thinking about including next. So here we have to watch out for this thing where like one hand goes down and the other hand goes up. We don't want those to like switch at the same time. And I know in your reference, like one goes down and then the other one comes up. So maybe we can get that breakdown blocked in here, where, because right now, you know, in these golden poses, it just looks like they're like scissoring back and forth, which we don't want. So again, I know, I told you just to focus on the golden poses, not worry about these breakdowns. I just like when I see this, I feel like those are really going to help make everything like much, much stronger, you know? But this is already going great. It's already strong. So the only other thing I have is at the end here, she kind of like, it looks like her torso's kind of like leaning back into perspective. You know what I mean? Like in Z depth. Jeez, what am I doing? Anyways, it looks like her torso goes back in Z depth, and it makes it seem like she's pulling away a little bit at the end of this. And I kind of feel like it would be nice to have her kind of like lean in more and engage in more as she gets more comfortable, you know? So maybe in this last pose, instead of having her lean back in Z depth, maybe she even wants to come forward in Z depth and over to the right in Z depth. And you can see in this reference, you know, you naturally kind of came a little bit closer. So like these tiny things, I know that this is all subtle details and stuff, but this is really gonna tell the story about how she's feeling, what's going on internally with her emotions. And that, man, that to me is everything that I enjoy about animation. It's trying to get in other characters' heads, trying to pour myself into their shoes. It's like that straight up empathy machine that you're trying to say, hey. So yeah, like see in the reference here, like it feels like a lean in, and maybe this is another place where we can make eye contact. So this head angle too, like seeing the bottom of the jaw, I think wouldn't read to the character she's speaking to as kind of like elusive or whatever, but I think it kind of reads that way to the audience. And so maybe we have to kind of like think about places where we can like level her out and kind of like maybe even like lean her forward, kind of tell the audience like how she's feeling about this guy or this person that she started to speak to that hasn't like interrupted her or cut her off, that seems to be going seems kind of interested and engaged. Maybe that's making her feel more comfortable around him, and so we really want to try to show that in her body language as much as possible. And it's going to be subtle things. It can be subtle little cues. We don't have to make it like over the top. I know this looks like maybe it's outside of frame, but I really like this hand pose here. So make sure that we're like representing that here and stuff like that too. Also here I feel like maybe there's like a little more relaxation happening in the spine, you know? So like take a pass and think about where she's stiff and up and where she's gonna like start to like slump in. Of course it would bring the whole head and neck assembly over to the right, where she's gonna start like relaxing, right? And we'll see that relaxation happening through her face, her head angles, her torso, how she's leaning in, and all that stuff. And all this stuff is going to be subtle, but that is the stuff. That is the stuff. So great work here, Bailey. I know I gave you critiques about a lot of stuff that doesn't exist, which isn't entirely fair, but you know, it's just part of the discussion I want to have with you now, because the stuff that's here is pretty strong and working really, really well. So yeah, I look forward to seeing your next pass, and yeah, I'll see you in class. All right, bye.